She fed a poor blind man every day for a year, but what he said next shattered everything she believed. That was the moment Sarah's world started to unravel. It all began on a hot afternoon in Lagos. The sun was beating down, turning the crowded streets into a sea of sweat and dust. Sarah was walking home from work, carrying a small bag of food her mother had packed for her lunch. As she crossed the busy market street, her eyes caught something that stopped her in her tracks. A man was sitting on the cold pavement, leaning against a rough brick wall. His clothes were torn and dirty. His face was smudged with dust, and his eyes were closed, covered by a dark pair of sunglasses. A white cane lay beside him, forgotten for the moment. Something about the man made Sarah slow her pace. She felt a sudden sadness she couldn't explain. For years, Sarah had seen many people begging on the streets. But this man didn't ask for money. He just sat quietly, as if he was waiting for something or someone. Without thinking twice, Sarah walked over and sat down beside him. "Are you hungry?" she asked softly. The man didn't answer right away. Then slowly, he opened his eyes, or maybe not. The sunglasses hid them well. "I'm always hungry," he said quietly. His voice was gentle, full of pain and pride at the same time. Sarah smiled and offered him the food from her bag. He took it carefully, as if afraid to break something fragile inside himself. "Thank you," he said. That was the first time she met David. Every day after work, Sarah found herself walking back to that same corner. At first, she just gave him food, a bowl of rice, some soup, a piece of bread. But soon, she started sitting with him, talking quietly about small things. David never told her much about himself, but sometimes when the sun was setting and the market noise dimmed, he would speak in a low voice. "I used to have a home once," he said one evening, "a family. But everything changed." Sarah didn't ask more. She didn't want to push. She just listened. Their little meetings became a secret comfort for her, a break from the noise of her busy life, her struggles with her job, her lonely apartment. For David, Sarah's visits seemed to bring light into a world full of darkness. After 2 months, Sarah started noticing things. David was blind, yes. But he walked without a stick sometimes, moving carefully but confidently. He spoke languages Sarah didn't understand. He knew things about the city, about places she had never heard of. Once, a man passed by and whispered something in David's ear. David nodded respectfully, and the man hurried away, almost afraid. Sarah's heart raced. Who was this man? Why was he sitting here in the dust when he seemed to know so much? One evening, Sarah decided to ask directly, "David, why don't you leave this place? Don't you have a home? Someone to take care of you?" David looked at her, his blind eyes hidden behind the sunglasses. "Some things," he said slowly, "you can't run away from." Sarah felt a chill. "What do you mean?" "Patience," he whispered. "In time, you will know everything." One night, a heavy rain came suddenly, drumming hard on the tin roofs and flooding the streets. Sarah was at home when she suddenly remembered David. Without thinking, she grabbed an umbrella and rushed back to the market corner. She found David shivering, soaked to the bone, but still sitting there. "Come with me," she said, wrapping the umbrella over them both. David hesitated, then took her hand. Sarah brought him to her small apartment. She made a warm bowl of soup, gave him dry clothes, and watched as he ate slowly. In the quiet of her home, David spoke more than ever before. "I am not always what I seem," he said, looking at her with a faint smile. "Why do you say that?" Sarah asked. "Because sometimes," David whispered, "life hides the richest treasures where nobody looks." Sarah felt her heart pound. What was he trying to say? Sarah had her own battles. She worked long hours as a secretary, barely making enough to pay rent and send money to her family in the village. She was proud and independent, but lonely. Her friends were busy with their own lives. And yet, every evening, she found herself drawn to that blind man on the street, giving him food, sitting with him, sharing moments she didn't share with anyone else. Her heart ached for him. Sometimes she wondered if helping David was really about him, or if it was about filling a hole inside her own soul. The months passed. Sarah and David's friendship grew deeper. They shared stories of dreams and losses. Sarah told him about her childhood in a small town, about her father who died when she was young. David shared memories of cities far away, of a life once lived in light and wealth. He never revealed where exactly he had come from. Sarah never pressed. She just wanted to help him. Then one day, as they sat together watching children play in the street, David said something that shook her. "Sarah, I'm not just a poor blind man. One day, I will tell you who I really am." Sarah laughed nervously. "Don't joke like that, David. You're safe here. That's all that matters." But deep down, she felt a flicker of hope and fear. Who was David really? A few weeks later, as Sarah approached the corner, she saw two men in suits talking to David. They looked serious, almost scared. David listened quietly, then nodded. Sarah stepped closer. One of the men saw her and frowned. David smiled faintly and said, "Sarah, you have been kind to me when no one else cared. I want you to know the truth soon." Before she could ask, the men walked away with David following silently. Sarah's heart pounded. What truth? That night, Sarah lay awake, wondering. She remembered all the times she fed David, helped him, believed in him. Was she being fooled? Or was there something real behind his blind eyes? She whispered to herself, "I will wait. I will listen." Because she knew deep down, this was just the beginning. Sarah couldn't sleep that night. David's words echoed in her mind like a whisper she couldn't forget. "One day, I will tell you who I really am." The city buzzed outside her window, but inside her room, a heavy silence pressed on her chest. Why would a blind man, sitting on a street corner, promise such a thing? And why did those men in suits seem so afraid of him? The next morning, as Sarah stepped outside, she found an envelope slipped under her door. No name, just her address. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a simple note, written in careful handwriting. "Meet me at the old park near the river at 6 p.m. Come alone." No signature. No explanation. Her heart pounded. Was it from David? Was it safe? Her mind screamed to ignore it. But something inside her, curiosity, hope, pulled her towards the park that evening. The park was quiet, empty except for the rustling trees and the distant sound of water. Sarah arrived early, nerves twisting inside her like a storm. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind a tree. David stepped out, his face calm, sunglasses hiding his eyes as always. "I'm glad you came," he said softly. "Why did you send this?" she asked. David smiled faintly. "Because you deserve to know the truth. About me. About why I've been here all this time." Sarah took a deep breath. "I've been waiting." David looked around carefully, then began. "Before I lost my sight, I had a different life, one most people could only dream of. I was a billionaire, Sarah." Sarah blinked. Her heart skipped. "A billionaire," she whispered, confused. "Yes. I owned businesses, buildings, a life filled with luxury. But it all fell apart." "How? Why are you here?" David's voice broke for a moment. I was betrayed by the people I trusted most. My sight was taken in an attack meant to destroy me. My fortune vanished, and so did my family. He paused, eyes fixed on the ground. For a year, I wandered broken, until you came. Sarah felt tears well up. You fed me when no one else would. You gave me hope. He looked at her, more vulnerable than ever. Sarah wanted to believe him, but the image of the broken blind man on the street was hard to reconcile with the story of a billionaire. Why didn't you tell me before? She asked, her voice shaky. David shrugged. I was afraid. Afraid you would see me as a liar. Afraid of losing the only kindness left in my life. Sarah reached out and took his hand. You don't have to be afraid. I believe you. Suddenly, footsteps approached fast. The two men from before appeared, serious and sharp-eyed. One spoke coldly, David, we've been looking for you. The board wants to see you. It's time to reclaim what's yours. David nodded, turning to Sarah. This is the moment I've waited for. But I want you by my side. Sarah's heart raced. Was this real? Could she really step into a world she never imagined? In the weeks that followed, Sarah was drawn into David's world. They fought together, against greedy lawyers, false accusations, and the shadows of the past. Sarah saw a side of David no one else did, brave, broken, determined. She learned that true wealth was not money or power, but trust, loyalty, and love. One night, as they sat on the rooftop, David whispered, There's one more secret. Sarah's breath caught. I was never really blind, he said. What? She gasped. I pretended, to hide from those who wanted to destroy me. Sarah felt the ground shake beneath her. Why? She asked. Because only in darkness could I find the light. David's truth shook Sarah to her core. She felt betrayal, confusion, but also an overwhelming respect for his strength. Together, they chose to face the future honestly, no more secrets, no more fear. Months later, standing in front of a crowd as David reclaimed his place, Sarah stood proud. She had fed a poor blind man every day, and in return, she found a story of courage and redemption. A story of how kindness can open eyes, even when they are closed. David smiled at her and whispered, Thank you for seeing me. Sarah smiled back, tears in her eyes. Because sometimes, the richest treasures are the ones hidden in plain sight. Please leave your comments, likes, and share the story so that someone else can learn how to be kind.